The morning was calm as the girl and the boy arrived at the small harbor, each carrying a bag and fishing gear. The sea looked reassuringly still, and the waves gently lapped against the wooden boats. They exchanged an excited glance. This was their first fishing trip alone, without any supervision. They climbed into the small boat, the girl sitting at the front watching the clear water, while the boy confidently started the engine. The boat moved slowly away from the shore, and with every meter they traveled, the sense of adventure grew stronger. Little did they know that this calmness was hiding a difficult test waiting for them out at sea. The boat drifted farther from the shore, and the sounds of the village behind them faded into near silence. The sun had risen slightly, its light reflecting off the sea's surface, making the water shine like a vast mirror. The girl took out her fishing rod and carefully arranged the line, while the boy monitored the depth finder, trying to recall what he had learned before. They chatted about the types of fish they might catch and laughed at the idea of a giant fish flipping the boat over. Finally, they cast the nets into the water and sat patiently, listening to the gentle waves tapping against the boat. Everything seemed normal, perhaps too normal, as if the sea was giving them a false sense of security. Minutes passed slowly until suddenly, the boy felt a strong tug on the net, as if something heavy had latched onto it deep below. He called the girl excitedly, and she rushed over to help him pull. At first, they thought it was a big fish, their hearts pounding with a mix of joy and tension. But the more they pulled, the stronger the resistance became, and the boat began to tilt slightly to one side. The girl looked at the water with concern and noticed that the surface was no longer calm. Irregular ripples were forming around them. The boy tried to ease the tension on the rope, but it remained taut, as if something below refused to let go. In that moment, worry crept in, and silence replaced their laughter. Within moments, the weather changed suddenly. A light breeze picked up, then grew stronger, and the waves rose until the boat rocked uneasily. The boy tried to start the engine to move away from the net's location, but it sputtered and died. The girl felt a tightness in her chest and looked up to see clouds slowly gathering, blocking the sunlight that had comforted them just moments before. Water began to seep into the bottom of the boat, not much, but enough to make them feel the danger. The girl clung to the edge of the boat to steady herself, while the boy thought quickly, realizing they had to act calmly before things got worse. They exchanged quick glances and decided to cut the rope attached to the net. The boy pulled out a small knife from his bag and approached the trembling rope. He hesitated for a moment, as if something inside him resisted, but the girl's determined look gave him courage. With a swift motion, he cut the rope. The boat jolted, then steadied. They both exhaled in relief, though the sea remained restless. The waves still tossed the boat, and the wind whipped the girl's hair across her face. The boy grabbed the oar and began rowing hard, trying to steer the boat toward shore, while the girl held on tightly. The first raindrops began to fall, cold and heavy, like a warning of an approaching storm. Despite their fear, they said nothing, only exchanging silent, resolute looks. They knew they had to survive together, and that the sea does not forgive hesitation. As the boat rocked, they spotted something strange floating in the distance, slowly approaching them, as if waiting to be seen. The floating object drew closer until it became clear. It was a small wooden box, old and soaked with seawater. The boy and girl exchanged cautious glances before the girl reached out with an oar and pulled it toward the boat. The box was tightly shut, but its rusty lock gave way under the boy's knife. Slowly, They opened it to find an old blanket and a blue bottle containing a carefully rolled piece of paper. With trembling hands, the girl retrieved and unrolled it. It was a hand-drawn map showing a section of the sea with a small island marked by a bold red X. The boy looked toward the horizon, then at the compass hanging from his neck, and whispered, "It's not far." The girl, filled with a mix of curiosity and hesitation, nodded silently. It seemed the sea wasn't trying to harm them, but to guide them. Though the waves still stirred, the boat began drifting gently toward the marked direction, as if something unseen was nudging them forward. The boat glided slowly toward the point marked on the map. The boy kept his eyes fixed on the compass, while the girl held the map, trying to match its details with the horizon. Nothing was visible at first, just the sea and a creeping mist. Then, a dark shape emerged in the distance, a small island barely rising above the water. They exchanged a look of surprise. It was closer than expected. As they approached cautiously, they saw the shore was covered in smooth black rocks, polished by years of waves. The girl anchored the boat between two stones and leapt lightly onto the land, followed by the boy carrying their bag. The island was silent, lifeless. But at its center stood something strange, a crumbling stone structure, its walls etched with faded carvings. They stepped toward it slowly, each step deepening their curiosity and their unease. The boat glided slowly toward the point marked on the map. The boy kept his eyes fixed on the compass, while the girl held the map, trying to match its details with the horizon. Nothing was visible at first, just the sea and a creeping mist. Then, a dark shape emerged in the distance, a small island barely rising above the water. They exchanged a look of surprise. It was closer than expected. As they approached cautiously, they saw the shore was covered in smooth black rocks, polished by years of waves. The girl anchored the boat between two stones and leapt lightly onto the land, followed by the boy carrying their bag. The island was silent, lifeless. But at its center stood something strange, a crumbling stone structure, its walls etched with faded carvings. They stepped toward it slowly, each step deepening their curiosity and their unease. They stood before the stone structure, studying the symbols carved into its walls. The markings were unfamiliar, yet the girl felt she had seen something like them before in an old book. The boy ran his fingers over the stones and felt a faint warmth, despite the cool air. He pushed open the decaying wooden door, which creaked loudly, revealing a small, dark room. The boy turned on his flashlight, revealing a sandy floor and, in one corner, a larger wooden chest. They approached it cautiously. The girl knelt to examine it. It wasn't locked, just covered with a worn cloth. She pulled it back to reveal a set of old items, a brass compass, a leather-bound notebook, and a small mirror. She opened the notebook and found pages filled with drawings, maps, and words in an unfamiliar script. The boy murmured, "As someone was here before us, and left something for us to finish." A chill ran through the girl, but she didn't back away. A secret was waiting to be uncovered. The girl sat on the stone floor, flipping through the notebook with care, while the boy stood at the doorway, watching the now calming sea. Suddenly, she paused at a page showing a sketch of the very structure they were in, with an arrow pointing to the ground. She called the boy over and pointed to the drawing, then to a corner of the room. Together, They began brushing away the sand with their hands until the boy's fingers struck something solid. They dug deeper and uncovered a small stone slab, which they lifted to reveal a narrow cavity holding an old leather pouch. Inside, they found a brass pocket watch, still ticking, and a small rusty key. The girl studied the watch and noticed its hands were frozen at a time different from the present, as if marking a specific moment. The boy said, "And maybe this key opens something else, something we haven't seen yet." They exchanged a silent look, then stepped outside to search the island for a door or chest waiting to be unlocked. They wandered the island in silence, scanning for anything that might match the key. The rocks were smooth, and the air was thick with the scent of salt and damp earth. Behind a cluster of low trees, the boy spotted an odd stone outcrop. As they approached, they noticed a barely visible keyhole, perfectly matching the key's size. The boy inserted it slowly, and with a soft click, a section of the ground shifted open like a hidden door. Stone steps led downward, bathed in a faint, mysterious light. They shared one last glance, then descended together. At the bottom, they found a circular chamber with a stone pedestal at its center. Atop it sat a glass case containing a pocket watch identical to the one they had found, except this one was completely still. Beside it lay a note that read, "A time is not measured in minutes, but in choices." They looked at each other and understood. The journey wasn't about fishing, but about discovering themselves. They closed their eyes for a moment, and when they opened them, they were back on the boat. The sea was calm again, but something inside them had changed forever.